living room. Thought I'd chat with my bestie about movies and shit.
Funny, I'm doing the same thing.
We are so alike. It's crazy.
We should like start a podcast or something.
How many more times are we gonna make this joke?
Every single time. This is our
Every
official
time, because it never gets old.
This is our official intro. I'm Olivia.
I'm Madalyne.
And we are two best friends who talk about movies.
And we happen to be really good at it.
Yeah. So this week, I want to do something fun. A little more girly, I guess.
Because we do so many boring masculine things on this show.
Yeah.
Lay it on me.
Like Pride and Prejudice. We're going to watch Ever After.
Never heard of it.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank. I believe you that it's fun.
Okay, it's a Drew Barrymore movie. It's a Cinderella movie.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. We're also going to be doing our top 5 Cinderella adaptations.
Okay, I'm here for that.
Let's just get into it. I don't have anything else to say in the intro. I'm excited to go watch it. So.
Cool. Ever After. You got it.
Ever After. We'll be back with our review of Ever After in 3, 2, 1. All right, and we're back.
We are back. We watched Ever After. I want to call it Ella Enchanted, and I know that's not the title.
They're similar in a lot of ways, but not the same movie.
No, far from it, in fact.
Before we get into like the plot of the movie, I'm curious, how do you feel about Cinderella as like an idea? Just like the concept of Cinderella.
Generally speaking, like poor girl, like taken advantage of by like, evil stepfamily, is not like other girls, gets saved by handsome prince who discovers he wants a girl that's not like other girls. Like, it's been done, but I eat it up every time. Am I crazy about it? No, but do I still watch and be like, oh my god, she's not like other girls? Yes.
It's interesting. I've never like thought of her as not like other girls type character, but I can definitely see how a lot of like adaptations of Cinderella definitely play into that. Like
for example, like Cinderella's story, like the Hilary Duff one.
Mm-hmm.
She's not like other girls. Like, she writes poetry and she wants to go to Yale, and she's, works at a cafe, and like she's not on the cheer squad and like all this stuff. I'm not intentionally shitting on like the movie. I like all these movies, but it's like the same trope, and it's like, because they have to make her not like other girls, otherwise how is the prince gonna notice her amongst all like the hot young noble women / cheerleaders / whatever? So it's like it works, but at the same time it's like the way they kind of set it up to show that she's not like other girls can like make me roll my eyes sometimes. Like when Danielle was quoting Thomas More, I was like, okay. He's like, you read more, and I'm like, stop. This is like, oh, you like the Smiths? Like,
yeah.
Name 5 songs.
Yeah.
I guess is like my take on Cinderella. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, like, I grew up watching the OG like Disney movie, but it was never like my favorite. I don't know. I felt like I never was like drawn to her as a character unless I was like, my mom told me to do chores or something, and I was just like, oh, I'm oppressed. But no, I guess I agree. I feel like she was never like a super relatable character to me. Other than like, I feel like I'm nice sometimes and I work hard, and it would be nice to
it would be nice to be recognized.
Yeah, it would be nice to get some good recognition up in here.
I mean, I'm not like other girls. However, no one has come to sweep me off my feet yet, and I'm a little upset about it.
I have my Bella Swan complex, like.
No, I'm like not boring and mundane. I am cool and interesting, and yet no one has come for me yet.
I have enjoyed all of the Cinderella adaptations in one way or another because it's just a fun story, but I
Yeah.
guess I've never really delved into Cinderella as a character and like the history of it too much. I did do a little history on like Cinderella as a character and where the story came from. So I guess before we get into the movie, I could like kind of run through that as like a framework for where this movie lands, I guess.
Yeah, I would love a
Okay.
history lesson, especially because like the lady in the beginning is literally calling out the Brothers Grimm. Like,
Yeah.
I guess you kind of have to touch on the true story in order to understand the rest.
Cinderella as a character has like thousands of different variants and different like retellings over the course of history, like all over the
Mhm.
world. But as far as I could tell, earliest known version was the story of Rhodopis, and she was a Greek slave girl who marries the king of Egypt. And this appeared somewhere between 7 BC and 23 AD. In this rendition, basically, she's a slave girl. She's taken a bath, and an eagle swoops down and like steals one of her shoes and
Oh,
basically flies the shoe and drops it in the lap of the king. And the king is like, wow, this is such an interesting thing to happen. This shoe is beautiful, but also how weird is it that this eagle just dropped it in my lap? I must find out who it belongs to. And basically that's where the king goes and like tries to find the owner of the shoe and then
mm.
finds her and marries her and you know, all that. So it's like a rags to riches by chance because an eagle stole her sandal.
That's a far flight. If she's a Greek slave girl taking a bath, I'm assuming. Oh, is she an Egyptian? Doesn't matter. No, you know what? I'm getting too into it.
You
I
can
have
look up the
multiple
plot
questions.
later.
I have a multiple. Yeah, we'll talk about this later.
But the first literary European variant was published by Giambattista Basile in
Mm,
Italy in 1634.
tea.
And this one is a little more like closely related to the story that we know. The dad is like a wealthy prince and
Mhm.
he marries a baroness, or the baroness like convinces him to marry her. And she has six daughters. And so she brings along six daughters. Then basically the rest of the story is very similar to what we know. But there's like a fairy tree gift giver lady. I believe the dad like forgets that Cinderella exists at some point.
Interesting.
But the most widely known version that we know was published in France by Charles Perrault in 1697 and was later reimagined by the Brothers Grimm in their folktale collection Grimm's Fairy Tales in 1812.
Hmm.
So Perrault's version is like basically the one that we know with the pumpkins and the fairy godmother and the stroke of midnight and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And then the
Cute.
Grimm's brothers version is a lot more violent. The stepsisters get like their eyes plucked out by birds. They like mutilate their
Oh my
feet
god.
to try to like fit the shoe and it's like really awful. But
Oh my god.
I know there's like thousands of other versions out there, and some of the other ones that I like heard of in passing in my research. There was one where Cinderella's instructor was like, "Oh, you don't like your stepmother? Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna open this trunk and ask her to like look into it, and then when she's looking into the trunk, just like close it on her neck, and it'll break her neck,
Oh my god.
and
Which
then
like
I will become your mother."
honestly would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. There's a lot of wild variety in these Cinderella tales. I think a lot of the older ones, the father figure is not dead. He's
Mm,
just around and all these terrible things happen to Cinderella and he just doesn't really do anything about it. So I think
yeah.
when we start talking about like our top 5 Cinderella adaptations, like a lot of those the father figure is dead because like why does she love her father so much if he's just like letting her get abused, you know?
Yeah. And like why is nobody like looking out for her?
Mhm.
And especially like in more modern times where it's like it is expected of both parents to watch like, to guide and protect the child
Mhm.
with love and not just like a home.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought
That
the
is
like
interesting.
violence and like I guess, demeanor of Cinderella in the different versions is it's like wildly different. And like sometimes she's portrayed as like the sweetest thing, the most forgiving, docile woman who is rewarded for her like sweetness with marrying the prince. And another one, she's a lot more cunning and kind of like okay with violence.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, look, you like murder.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's the small amount of research I did on the history of Cinderella, but
nice.
I think as we talk about Ever After and its place in the overall saga of Cinderella, I think is pretty interesting.
Cool. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to party.
All right, so Ever After is a 1998 American romantic drama film inspired by the Cinderella fairy tale. It was directed by Andy Tennant and stars Drew Barrymore, Angelica Houston, Dougray Scott, and Richard O'Brien.
I know. The moment I heard Monsieur Le Pew, which is a fucking hilarious name, the moment I heard his voice, I was like, that's fucking Richard O'Brien. And because I watched it on Amazon and I did, when you pause it, it shows who is in the scene. I was like, knew it. I fucking knew it.
His inclusion in the film is very interesting, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but
I loved it personally.
It's also I really enjoy it, but
yeah.
The film is set in Renaissance era France. The brothers Grimm arrive at the home of a wealthy grande dame who speaks of many legends surrounding the fable of the Cinder Girl before telling the true story of her ancestor.
That's Cinder Girl.
The like IMDb, Wikipedia plot summary of the film.
They just explain like the first 2 minutes of the film. Like that's it. That's all IMDb summarized.
But it's basically Cinderella, but through the lens as if it were like historical fiction. All right. So do you want to give us a brief synopsis of the story?
Sure. So we open with, yes, the brothers Grimm talking to this dame, and she's like, you told the story all wrong and you made people murder each other and chop their feet off or whatever. It's revealed that she is the descendant of the Cinder Girl, and she's like, let me tell you. We're thrust back to Renaissance era France. Young Danielle, she's raised by her father and he dotes on her and he loves her very much, but he remarries this baroness. And like the father has to leave for something, and like it's straight. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I missed this, but like, did the fucking baroness poison him or something? Because like he died immediately after she showed up. Like,
okay. He gets home. Yeah. And gives Danielle Utopia. He's like, this is probably a little too dense for you. You're 8 years old, but you know what? Why not? I got nothing else. So I have no other gifts for you. So he gives it to her. She's very happy. And he's like, oh yeah, so like, by the way, I just got home. I haven't seen you in forever, but like, I'm going to go away again immediately.
Yeah. Immediately. And then immediately dies. Like really the worst father on the planet. Give this child like the dullest, densest book you've ever heard of and then die. Like, wow, trash.
I think, okay, so my take is he had a heart attack.
My take is she fucking poisoned him.
I don't think so. I feel like we're talking about the Baroness. I feel like not Danielle. She's 8.
Danielle killed her father. She was just over it.
Yeah. She was like, you gave me this fucking book. I asked for a horse, Dad.
Yeah. Bring me a pony.
He gives her Utopia, and the next day starts getting ready to leave. His hands feeling weird, so he's like flexing it and looking at it like, that's weird, but whatever.
Rat poison.
Says goodbye to Danielle and the Baroness and starts riding away. And Danielle's like, wait, it's tradition. He always waves when he gets back to the gate. And then yes, he immediately dies and falls off the horse. Well, he's not dead yet because Danielle like runs up to him and everyone runs up to him and is like, oh no, what's going on?
And then he dies.
I'm just gonna say I don't think she poisoned him. We disagree on this point. We disagree on this point.
That's fine. I mean, technically, like, if any of us is correct, it's you, but I still think I am. 10 years later, a lovely, glowing Drew Barrymore. We love to see it. And so she's out picking apples and shit. and this fucking guy comes out of nowhere and tries to steal her horse, and she's like, drop the booty hoe, because I'm about to pay you with some apples. You're trying to steal my father's horse. And he's like, OMG, I'm so sorry. Falls off the horse. His fucking regalia is everywhere. And she's like, oh my God, you're the prince. So she meets the prince. Prince is like, hey, here's a shit ton of gold, servant, peasant girl. We never saw each other. After she like threw like 16 apples at him. And she was like, okay, fine. So
she has a good
takes
aim.
Huh?
I will say she has a great aim.
She was like, she could have hit him in the face if she really wanted to, but I
thought she did. She like hit him in the head.
Well, yeah, I was thinking like when he turned around, she could have like still like got a couple in the eyes, you know.
I feel like this is the reason why he can never recognize her after this point.
He was concussed.
Yeah, he just has a concussion.
I literally wrote in my notes that she was going Miley Stewart Hannah Montana on his ass. It is the best of both worlds, girl. So he gives her some gold to like keep her quiet about the fact that he is not at the palace and took her horse. And she decides to use this money to buy back the servant, one of the kitchen maid's husband, who was sold off by her stepmother to repay a debt. So, which I was like, is that a thing? But I guess it is.
Because he's what, like an indentured servant? And so because the Baroness is like spending all this money that they don't have,
she's got to repay her debt.
She's got to repay it somehow. So she's just like, a side plot in the movie is that things around the estate are going missing. Yeah. And she keeps blaming it on the servants and taking it out of their pay, and sells Maurice to go to the Americas.
Yeah. She sells it to like the crown to repay her debts. And the crown is like, okay, well, we're just going to sell these indentured servants to, you know, people going to the Americas. Yeah. And then Danielle's like, well, shit, I don't want Maurice to like be shipped off to the Americas, so I'm gonna dress up in fancy garb and take my gold and go try and buy him back, like repay the debt and, you know, free him essentially. And so she strolls up in her hot outfit and
she's in girl boss mode,
100%, arguing with the jailer who's got Maurice trapped in a little box. And lo and behold, who rolls up? The prince. And he's like, hey. And she's like, I don't know you. And he's like, I think we know each other. And she quotes Thomas More to him because she's trying to free her, you know, servant. And he's like, oh, you know Thomas More? You're not like other girls. And like, she's like, not only did I read it, I liked it. And he's like, whoa. You know,
he was like, oh, that was boring. I hate reading about like, poor people.
She was like, it was the best thing I ever read. And he was like, wow. So she's like, release my man. And he's like, okay. And so she takes Maurice home and he's like, who are you? And like, he will not fucking stop pestering her. And she's like, I'm in town with my cousin. He's like, who's your cousin? She's like, I don't know. And then scampers off and the queen interrupts. And he's like, darn it, mother. Love the queen, love the king. They're both iconic. And so, you know, he's arguing with his parents. He doesn't want to marry. He doesn't want to be in an arranged marriage to the Princess of Spain. He doesn't know her. He doesn't love her because he's never met her. And like, it's terrible. And they're literally like, yeah, but you're hella privileged. And like, this is the one fucking thing you have to do. And then the king's finally like, listen, like, I'll call off this arranged marriage if you find a bride at this one ball I'm hosting next week.
Let's back up a minute. Oh. We skipped the entire Leonardo da Vinci
intro. Oh my god, yes, I wrote that in my notes. I'm so sorry. So yeah, so at one point, fucking Prince is walking back. He's like all sad about like being a prince, and he's talking to his like BFF Leonardo da fucking Vinci. Like he just shows up, which I guess is a thing. Like he did. It was
like okay. So Leonardo da Vinci spent the last few years of his life in France. So he was the resident artist for King Francis, which in this movie is Henry's dad, the king. Yes. But the timeline is a little wibbly wobbly because I think at the time that I believe it was 1516 or something like that when he went to do that. At that time, Prince or King Francis was a lot younger than he is in this movie. Yeah. So there's some timeline inconsistencies, but you know what, it doesn't really matter.
I know it's so inconsequential, but I do pay attention.
Also, Utopia was written in 1516 or was published in 1516, so like Danielle would not have had it for 10 years at this point.
Right. It would have not have been like a withered ass wrinkly copy. If we're basing our timeline accuracy solely on the lifespan of Leonardo da Vinci, which it seems we are, you're correct.
But ultimately, I don't care about any of these things because it's a cute movie.
No, it was hilarious because he's like talking about like the Princess of Spain, and he like unrolls this thing and it's the fucking Mona Lisa, and I was like, stop. At first, I thought it was like trying to indicate that that was the Princess of Spain, and I was like, no. I was dying. I loved it. But the middle bit of the movie is her just like meeting the prince off and on in like various scenarios, and the Baroness, her stepmother, trying to like get Marguerite like it good with the royal family so that she marries the prince, because word gets out that he's no longer in an arranged marriage. And so the prince is under the impression that she's like this duchess, that Danielle is this duchess who is, I guess, actually, or countess or whatever, which was actually her mother's title. So she's posing as her mother, hanging out with the prince, and they fall in love, and they like go on a day trip together to this Franciscan church. So after their night out, they go, and she's dropped off. They share another kiss. And then he's all hype. He's like, I know she's the one for me. Like, I know this girl. And meanwhile, the stepmother is like on to Cinderella because like obviously she was gone all night, wasn't like cooking them fucking bread and biscuits or whatever, and she was pissed about it. And this is kind of when, Danielle starts to like stand up for herself more, because she's like, I'm in love. Love makes me invincible. And then she's like, make bread yourself or boil water yourself or whatever. And so then they figure out, when Marguerite and the queen go and have a nice afternoon tea with the Queen of France, that Danielle and the prince had been out together all night, and that's where she was. So then she gets like a lashing, which I was like, what the fuck? Like, which one of those women wielded the fucking witch? I mean, obviously it was, the stepmother, but like, I could not imagine that, like, that woman, like, bringing a whip down with like any sort of like skill or force. But regardless, she, Danielle gets a whipping.
She's probably pretty kinky, so she's got some practice.
That's tea. I mean, you saw how she's treating the court insider. So like, she was like getting those fingies all over there. Yeah. I was like, ooh, this is tantalizing. Do I want to be him?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. Up, down, and sideways. Yes. So they find out their dirty little secret. Danielle gets a beating. And she is not allowed to go to the ball anymore. And Marguerite, being like a cold ass bitch, burns her copy of Utopia. And that's just heartbreaking. So then she is locked in the basement, in the cellar, and the ball begins. And her fairy god, Da Vinci, shows up with, help from some friends to like get her out. And he makes her some wings and shit. And she goes to the ball. And well, you thought that the ball scene was just they lock eyes and they fall in love. No, worse. She rolls up and she's like, I need to tell you something. And he's like, no, I love you. Like, I'm going to bring you to my family, and we're going to do this right here, right now, Queenie. And she's like, no, seriously, I got to tell you something. And he's like, wait. So then the stepmother intervenes at the ball, and she's like, this girl isn't a countess. She's a commoner. And, Danielle has to be like, yes, it's true. And this hoe, Henry, the prince, is like, address me as royalty, blah, 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 blah. And he's all offended and upset that Danielle betrayed him. And so she runs out crying, and like, he's all like pissed off because he's like embarrassed and like confused. Then we find out that all the things that the stepmother had been, siphoning away in order to make money and like skimp on the pay of the servants was going to Monsieur Le Pew, who was this nasty hoe who has been trying to get with Danielle from the jump, even though he's like 400 and she's like a hot 20,
It's such an interesting side plot that like only comes into play at the very end, you know? I mean, like, I guess that's not true. I guess like the things disappearing and the Baroness like blaming it on Danielle and the servants and stuff is like all throughout, but like Pepe Le Pew.
So the
very
Baroness sells.
Just an interesting tone shift at the end there.
It really was. Like, I really just was not like sure what was gonna happen. So like, yeah, so she sold off to this Pepe Le Pew, which I love that he was wearing like black and white, like very like literally Pepe Le Pew. And the prince realizes he wants to marry her and like still loves her, tries to find her. She's been sold off, so he tries to go rescue her. Meanwhile, she's literally holding Pepe Le Pew at knife point. And he hands over the key and she frees herself. And the prince arrives as she's just casually walking out of the castle, little palace thing. And so I guess they at some point get married, but we don't see that part.
They did it in secret to be petty, so that they could have this little meeting at the end where they bring the Baroness and the daughter in front of everyone, and then they're just like, "You haven't met my wife," and then
my wife.
Like, when did this happen? Like they had a secret wedding just to be petty.
I know. They kind of like robbed us of the wedding, but I understand that it was for dramatic effect, and I will like get over it. And so Marguerite and the Baroness are doomed for eternity to work in the laundry room of the palace. And Danielle was like, "I will never think about you again, but you will think about me forever." So yeah, that is the movie. Yeah. They live happily ever after.
The point is that they lived.
They lived.
Did you believe that?
No, they obviously died at some point. Anyway, review over. Good work, guys.
Yeah, so what are your overall thoughts on the movie?
I liked it more than I thought I was going to. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I first started watching it, I was like, "Oh man!" Like when I first heard Drew's British accent, I was like, "Oh Lord!"
I don't understand, like, American movies set in like any European country.
Yeah,
only speaking British accents.
Yes,
but not even good British accents half the time.
And they hire American actors to play the lead,
which is fine. I feel like Drew Barrymore, it's iconic,
Yeah. I mean,
it's not offensive to anyone.
No, of course not. But it's just like
deal with it. But
yeah, but if we're sitting here, we're gonna be like, okay, the accent sucks. It's like, well, they did hire an American actor, so like, yeah. Anyway, okay.
I'm conflicted on this point.
Help me through this. But I think what I liked about it was like, and I could kind of get this sense from the jump, was like this was definitely going to be like a less like, oh, she's just pretty and nice and that's why the prince falls in love with her. And more like in some versions of Cinderella, like that's how she's like not like other girls, is just that she's so like strikingly beautiful and like, with unending kindness, like she literally could be set on fire and she would like thank the person. Yeah, forgive you, thank the person for lighting her on fire. Like, oh, I was cold. Like
that's why they call me Cinderella.
Yeah, I'm just always chilly and I need to be covered in ash to stay warm. I'm just so tiny and cute.
So petite and small.
So, but in other versions like Enchanted and like, this movie, the heroine is much more like strong-willed, and like that's what makes her not like other girls. And thus that's why I kind of liked it. I was like, okay, we're going more like she's not like other girls because she's like a badass. And I was here for
it. She's
like,
smart. She reads books.
She's smart. She read Thomas More a decade before it was published.
She's an activist.
She really was. Like, she really was going full activist.
She was doing some, social justice stuff.
100%. She was.
Which I respect.
Yes, she was making sure the people's voices were heard, and suddenly there was a university. Yay.
Social economics is solved.
No problems that need to be solved in a revolution at all.
Yes, I was about to say, like, somehow didn't stop the revolution from happening, but
she did her best with the tools she had. She couldn't see into the future.
She became queen and was all of a sudden like, you know what? Everyone else can keep working.
Cake. Yeah. You know what? Cake is fucking good.
Let them work in the laundry room forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Execute all the thieves. I've changed my mind. Don't
You
let
know
them
what? Henry, you're right.
Henry, you're right. Poor people are trash. Yes, I liked it more than I thought I would. I just loved, like, you know, I like that it's set in a different time period because I mean they do obviously all the different iterations. Most of them stick to around like the same time period, like the 1700s, like early 1800s when it was like set in, you know, the fairy tale. Like I'm thinking like Lily James's Cinderella, Brandy's Cinderella, like the Cinderella, the original Disney Cinderella, like they're all set around like the same time period. So it's nice to see like, and there's a lot of obvious modern adaptations. So it's nice to see like one that's a bit more of a throwback to like Renaissance. Like why not add Leonardo da Vinci to this? Like fuck it up, you know? Like the world is your oyster.
Yeah, I mean I think an interesting thing about having Leonardo da Vinci be like the fairy godmother character
Yeah.
is they're replacing the like magic that's in most of the other adaptations with science.
I liked that.
It's interesting. I feel like it's pretty clever.
I really liked her fairy god Da Vinci.
Yeah.
You know,
he's one of the best characters for sure.
He was an icon.
He had some great lines. Looks like rain.
Oh! Yeah. My favorite line though was from the king when like they were having their little argument and Henry was like, I don't want the crown. And he was like, well, you won't have it and I'll just live forever. And he was like, very like,
I'll deny you the crown and I'll simply live forever.
Yeah.
So good.
And so he was like, and simply not die. Like that's what he said. That's what got me. I was like, yes, you gave it to him. Serve, bitch.
Yeah, there's a lot of good one-liners in this movie that I think really help make it endearing and make it like, you know, just a cozy little fairy tale, you know?
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it.
But yeah, I love Ever After. I think it's, like I said before, just super nostalgic for me. It was a slumber party movie. It was one of those, like, do you remember the little TVs in the back of like vans and stuff?
Yes.
Like this is one of those movies that was constantly playing whenever I would be in one of those vans.
I love it. Yeah, my family never owned one of those vans, but yeah, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it just it just like throws me back to like a time when I would be like hanging out with friends and they had the fancy van with the TV on the back of the seat and like just, you know, I don't know. It's cute. The prince was kind of a piece of shit throughout the entire movie.
Totally. And then she first of all, you know, after his performance at the ball, if he had showed up and been like, Danielle, wait, I would turn around and be like, excuse me? Now we're on a first name basis? I'm fucking sorry, Your Highness. Like, I don't fucking think so. Like, yes, I am a peasant girl, but clearly you want this poussey, so you better be on your knees begging for forgiveness. Not just sitting there with a fucking slipper in your hand being like, can I put this on your foot? Because no, you're weird.
I will say, though, in that scene, he does show the most growth, I feel like, out of anyone in the entire movie. Like he's the only one that has like a really decent like story, like character arc, you know, because the entire movie he's like just super privileged and like really ignorant, arrogant.
Yeah, I was gonna say a pussy, but you said it better.
He was a pussy, and he was a pussy.
Pussy.
Yeah, so he was acting like that, acting like a child, pretty much the entire movie. Really was not really seeing Danielle as like a person, even when she was his object of desire before finding out that she was a servant or whatever. It was more just like, oh wow, you're not like other girls and you don't like let me say whatever I want, you know?
And I like that.
You're smart.
I like that about you.
But in the last scene, like, well, I guess Da Vinci calls him out beforehand when he's like standing in the rain, like caressing the shoe. And then he shows up to be like, hey, I realized that like you were telling me who you were, or trying to tell me who you were, I wasn't listening. And then at the first sign of like problems, I overreacted and acted like a child. And so I'm here to apologize for that. So I think it's like nice that he was able to pinpoint what he did wrong and then apologize for it and not be like try to make excuses, which I think is good.
Sure. No, I do. I do like that he was like, I was an ass. And you were an ass, Henry. But ooh, Lordy. I don't know. It would have taken a lot more for me. I was an ass and
I mean, to be fair, I think she was just kind of like, God damn, just like walked out of Pepe Le Pew's house after possibly killing him. We don't know.
We don't know the fate
don't
of
really
Pepe
know
Le
what happened
Pew,
there.
and I'm okay with that. I like to leave it up to speculation.
And then to see him and be like, all right, it's not
he's
the
better
worst.
than my previous
yeah, he's better than Pepe Le Pew.
That's fair. That is fair. I'd be like, you know what, get me the fuck out of here. I will listen to your apology on the road. Like, let's go.
She was barefoot. He's giving her a shoe, you know.
She wasn't barefoot. He took her shoe off to put the other shoe on.
Oh.
It doesn't matter. Anyway.
Sure.
It simply does not matter.
What did you think of Pepe Le Pew?
Okay, I
Richard
get
O'Brien.
like why he had to exist. I didn't like how they made it like a sexual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess what I'm saying is like I just didn't like that it had to be like a sexual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they wanted to keep it like she was sold to him and like she still freed herself, that's cool. But like don't make it some weird like perverse like borderline like pedophilic kind of like situation, Like little girls
like...
don't really need to see that, or little children in general don't really need to see that in order for like the situation to be dire. Like you can just say she was sold off to some dude and she like fought for her freedom, and like that's cool too. I would have been satisfied with that as a consumer.
It just didn't quite fit tonally with the rest of the movie,
in
my opinion.
They tried to set it up when he was like hitting on her in the market, but it wasn't enough. And so then when he was sold, like she was sold off to him, like, and then he was like trying to put that thing down. It was too much.
Yeah. I mean, he only appeared the one time and then you forget about him completely.
Right.
Because all this other stuff is going on. And then like all of a sudden she's being dragged away.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this guy. Okay.
You're like, I am just as confused as she is. Like, what is going on? I guess was
the big bad the whole time.
Yeah.
But
like it was obvious from the jump that like the Baroness was the one selling that shit off. And then she was like using it as an excuse to not pay her employees. So like cool, but and the reveal that he was the one buying it, like also whatever. I don't know.
It kind of felt like someone just gave the script to Ever After to Richard O'Brien just to look at, and he was like, you know what, there's not enough weird sex stuff in this.
Yeah, you know what, who needs to be in this film? Me. I wrote myself into the script, like hands it back with like red pen all over it. They're like, we didn't ask for that.
It does feel very 90s to have her have this like save herself moment, which I don't know, I guess that's not necessarily 90s, but it just feels very like
it does
of its time. Like that's what would be expected of a like feminist movie at the time, right.
I almost would have liked it if like she was holding like Pepe Le Pew at gunpoint and she was like about to like rip this hoe to shreds, and Henry was like, my darling, don't kill him, and she's like, I'm gonna kill him, and then he's like, no.
Gunpoint.
Yeah, at knife point. She's going to kill him.
She has gunpowder.
She is a wench who has ridden the Silk Roads and brought back gunpowder.
A gun under her dress the whole time.
Yeah. So if he had like come in and like, I don't know, like came in with the assist to save her, like again, like she can obviously save herself, and that's the whole point. But I guess I'm just like a little old fashioned, like quasi romantic, and I'm like, if he'd like came in and like helped her like at the last minute, like to really get free, that would have been great. But who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I guess that's like why it feels so disconnected, is because like Henry's not, he doesn't play a part in that at all, which is fine. Like I understand the point, but it does feel just like, okay, we have this scene and then she's walking away, and then the resolution to the rest of the story,
Right. And also it's like, she didn't do much to help herself the entire movie. Like, yeah, she started to stand up for herself, and I guess like the ultimate example of her like standing up for herself is literally like about to murder this dude so she can be free. But I don't know, like every other step that she took to like help herself or others, like it came at like some of it came at the mercy of like Godfather Leonardo da Vinci or like the prince or the king or whoever. So I guess they had to just be like, she don't need no high status man to help her. I don't know. Like it just felt really forced in some ways.
Yeah.
Oh well. All in all though, like it was a good movie. Like I get that it's a sleepover movie. I'm here for it.
It's cozy. All right. Do you have any other thoughts on Ever After, A Cinderella Story?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right.
No. No thoughts. Just vibes. Bye-bye.
That's it. All right. So now I guess we can do our top 5 Cinderella adaptations, which is what everyone's here for.
Yes, that is the only reason anybody shows up anybody shows up these days.
Would you like to start us off with your number 5?
Sure. My number 5 is the Lily James version of Cinderella.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's like, I mean, her version is definitely like she's just so good and so sweet and so kind and like can literally be set on fire and thank you for it. But I don't know, she's just so pretty. And I did love, what is his name? Richard. Who the hell's the prince?
I know who you're talking about. The guy who plays
Madden.
Richard Madden.
Richard Madden.
He plays Rob Stark.
So cute as the prince. Like he was just like, he looked the part. Honestly though, he looked more like Eric from Little Mermaid if we're going like I don't know, for like exact looks from the Disney versions, but no, he was so cute, so it worked out well. I'm here for that version. Just very wholesome.
I've never actually seen that version, so I can't really speak on it too much. But
that's okay.
It does look cute.
It is. And her dress is just stunning. So.
My number 5 is the OG Cinderella, the 1950s Disney OG. Not because I think it's like one of my favorite movies of all time or anything like that. It's just I think it's classic, and it's what we like reference when we think of Cinderella. It's like our mind automatically goes to that image first. It kind of sets up our understanding of the character, because I personally did not read the Grimm's Brothers version, nor did I read like the old French text.
Ye old Cinderella.
Yeah. So OG Disney Cinderella is my number 5.
Okay, we're on to number 4.
Yes.
Ella Enchanted is my number 4.
Okay.
I remember reading the book, so I was all for the book. And then when it became a movie, I was like, hell's bells, I'm here for it. What I do appreciate about, and I might be mistaken because I haven't seen Ella Enchanted in a very long time, but if I'm not mistaken, they don't fake British accents. Like if you're British in the movie, you have a British accent, but if you're American in the movie, you have an American accent.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah. And I kind of appreciate it. Like, come as you are.
It's not trying to be like historical fiction. It's just a fantasy.
Exactly. Like, yeah, that's all I have to say. But I liked the concept of her like being unable to say no to like commands and everything, and like her her will to like be a good person and like her love for the prince and all this is like what, you know, is like that is like her own version of like standing up for herself, which is the other like I guess like fork in the road for Cinderella is like you're either like too good and pure for this world or like you're really beaten down but you're, you know, you eventually stand up for Cinderella eventually stands up for herself and still has grace and like patience for the people who wronged her. Like, so yeah, so that's why I like Ella Enchanted.
Nice. I also really like Ella Enchanted. But we'll talk about that later because
okay,
it's also on my list.
Okay. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is A Cinderella Story. The Hilary
Nice.
Duff.
Okay, give it to me.
I just think it's another slumber party movie. I feel like it's like peak 2000s or like yeah, it's like peak 2000s.
Yeah.
Hilary Duff's prime. Who is that? Who's the prince? Like what's his name?
Chad Michael Murray.
Yeah, Chad Michael Murray. Another like just classic teen heartthrob.
Yeah, I was gonna say early 2000s heartthrob. Yes. Yes.
We got Jennifer Coolidge as a stepmom, which I think is just like iconic casting.
And it wasn't like a farm or an estate. It was like a diner that, you know, she inherited. So
it's a modern take on a classic tale. She is definitely a not like other girls type, with her like
1000%.
weird DMing on her little
poetry and going to Yale? Princeton and going to Princeton. Like, wow, okay, if your Ivy League expectations are so low that you only want to go to Princeton, okay, let's reevaluate.
Wait, okay, so can you tell me how did the dad die in the like Emily James Cinderella?
I think it was a similar thing where he went off on because he was like a businessman or a tradesman or something like that. And he went off on another like trade venture and he just like gets an illness and dies. Okay. Like he dies off screen in Lily James's version.
In A Cinderella Story, the dad dies in an earthquake, and I feel like it's just as abrupt as any other Cinderella story. It's just okay,
so random.
Just died
or
horrifically.
Did Jennifer Coolidge hit him over the head with a rock and blame it on an earthquake?
Also, I'm confused. Did the house like cave in on him and then they rebuilt the house? Or did he just like fall through a crack? Like, is the house still standing?
I really don't know. Maybe he fell off a cliff.
So he left the house and just fell off a cliff, and it wasn't even earthquake related. It was just,
I don't know. I don't remember that part. All I know is he's dead.
Yeah. But anyways, the movie's cute. Poison. There's definitely, you know, some things that haven't aged well, but overall I can rewatch it and enjoy it, and it's fun. All right. Number 3, go for it.
My number 3 is this movie, Ever After. Aww. I really liked it.
Nice.
Yeah, it really grew on me. What about your number 3?
My number 3 is the Roger and Hammerstein Brandy Cinderella.
Yes. Iconic.
We got Whitney Houston.
We do.
We got Whoopi Goldberg.
Absolutely.
We got Brandy.
We got Bernadette
Peters.
You're right. I forgot about Bernadette Peters. I love Bernadette Peters.
Stacked cast. We have a white dad, a black mom, and an Asian son. It's great.
Love it. Can't stop, won't stop.
Modern family.
Indeed.
No, it's great.
Adoption is in that kingdom.
It's cheesy, it's campy, it's sweet,
and the music's just lovely and just heartwarming. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually, fun fact about me, in a Roger and Hammerstein production of Cinderella when I was 13.
Oh.
Yes. So I feel like I am like, this version of Cinderella is very near and dear to my heart because
Who were you in Cinderella? Were you one of the stepsisters?
No, I was I was a lot of characters. I was like in the background, so I was like rotating.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I was
part of the ensemble.
I was this is not very progressive of the casting, but I was the fat girl, and I was 13 and like maybe 90 pounds.
Damn.
I was a mouse that turns into a horse. I was a person at the ball.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were really all over that stage.
I was.
Work.
It was great. It was a lot of fun. It was community theater, so it was like very low stakes.
Oh, cute.
But it was fun.
Stop. I love it.
Yeah. All right. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Brandy's
Aww.
Roger and Hammerstein, Brandy, Cinderella, for all the same reasons. Like, you know, love the music, love the cast, just the nostalgia behind it.
I feel like we don't have a better fairy godmother than Whitney Houston.
Than Whitney. Absolutely not.
No.
Fairy god Da Vinci comes pretty close, but not quite.
It's fun, but the magic and just the flair of Whitney's fairy godmother is unmatched.
Right.
Okay, my number 2 is Ever After.
Nice. Oh, look at us swapping hoes.
I mean, I feel like there's a limited pool of Cinderella movies that we were pulling from, and we have similar taste.
True.
So, I this is to be expected, I think.
I think so.
But yeah, I've already stated I think Ever After is just very sweet. It's nostalgic. It's different because it's trying to do the like historical fiction thing. It's Drew Barrymore in her prime.
It is Drew Barrymore.
It's Angelica Houston. It's everything that we've already talked about for the past hour. So I won't go into it too much more, but it is definitely near and dear to my heart. So yeah.
Nice. Yay. Well, my number 1 is the Camila Cabello Cinderella.
Madalyne.
No, I'm kidding.
I was about to be furious. I'd be like, She got me good.
Yeah, I got you, hoes.
No, I was like, what else is left? And then you throw that at me. I'm like, I was gonna believe you.
Well, no, honestly, I haven't seen it, so like, why? But come on, Billy Porter as fairy godmother?
No, I have seen it. No.
Yeah. No, my number 1 is A Cinderella Story because I watched it recently and like it's just like a corny like Disney modern Cinderella. I love it. Like the quote where she's like you'll never know like the real me because like you won't open your, like she says something like that's like supposed to be so deep where it's like you won't even open your eyes to see the real me or whatever, and then like runs away. It's like so fucking stupid. I love it so much. And it's like, you know, our Lord and Savior Hilary Duff, like, yes, Chad Michael Murray, teenage heartthrob, all the things we'd also previously stated. It's just chef's kiss, roller skate diner, and all.
Yeah, I think another sweet anecdote that I have is for this movie is my sister got married recently, and on the wedding day, like in the morning when we're all getting ready and stuff, we were just trying to think like, should we put on music while we're all getting ready? Should we put on a movie or a TV show? And so we ended up we were like, what's a good like wedding day movie? Like what's like a romantic, just like get us in the mood for whimsy and romance. And so we decided to put on a Cinderella Story.
Oh, that's so nice.
And so we were just all watching that in the background while we were getting ready. And
cute.
And if there are any videos of the reveal when she came out wearing her dress and everything, you'll see us all standing in front of a TV playing Cinderella Story in the background.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
it was very fun. That. A nice little touch to a Cinderella Story. She comes out on top.
Yeah.
What's your number 1?
My number 1's Ella Enchanted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I watched it recently. Because okay, the story is I tried to watch the Amazon Camila Cabello version, and like we got maybe 15 minutes into it, and I was like, this is literally just like a bad version of Ella Enchanted. So let's just watch that. So we watched that, and it had been maybe 10 years since I've seen it last, and it was a joyous ride. Like we got the guy at the beginning narrating, the guy from Monty Python narrating the whole thing.
Oh, nice.
I feel like Anne Hathaway is iconic. It's
She's
musical.
amazing.
She's an activist. She's everything that you said earlier about like her not being able to make the decision to not like do what people ask because it's like a curse. I feel like helps with the like agency of it, you know?
Yeah.
She feels more like a true character, like well-rounded character with like things going on, interests, passions.
She is not like other girls. She's cursed.
True. If anyone were to say they're not like other girls, it would be Ella.
Agreed. 1000%.
I think the prince in this movie is really cute and like charming. His name's Char. I don't know. It's just fun all around. And also the actor who plays Wesley in Princess Bride plays the villain. And
oh, I know who you're talking about. Can't remember his name.
I'm terrible podcast host. I should have all this
really?
information in front of me. But...
Same. Carrie.
Oh, Carrie.
Carrie Elwes. ELW.
Carrie Yules.
Yules? Is that how it's pronounced?
I don't know.
Fuck me. I don't know. Elwes. Carrie Elwes. You know him. The Princess Bride dude.
Yeah. He plays the villain. And I don't know. I just love he's just so cheesy in everything that he's in, and I love it.
He's in like a few episodes of Psych, that TV show, and I live for all those episodes. So yes, anything that Carrie Elwes I don't know is in, I'm behind. 100%.
We got Minnie Driver, which I don't feel like I see her in a lot of things, but everything she's in is great. She was also in the new Cinderella movie, the Camila Cabello one.
Was she plays the stepmother?
No, she plays the queen.
Oh, it's weird.
Like she and okay, my memory's going. Who plays the love interest in Mamma Mia?
Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan's the king. So she and Pierce Brosnan are married.
No, he was cast in another musical. I thought we put an end to that. Nor! Liar!
Yeah, so she and Pierce Brosnan are having marital issues.
Aren't we all?
And I feel like that's the most compelling part of the movie. But
oh my god, they're like marriage dramas, king and queen. Damn. Yeah. That's because they're great actors, and like high key Camila Cabello isn't. So
that's all she wrote.
Okay, wait. Does Camila Cabello have a like a fan base, like collective name? Like Beyonce is the Hive. Ariana Grande is like the Arianators. Because all I'm saying is like if you're actually a good pop star, you would have a like fan base name. And she doesn't, so like that speaks volumes.
True.
Now, what are Adele's? Now that I think about it, like we need to solve some things. Anyway,
but yeah, so Ella Enchanted's fantastic.
Back to Ella Enchanted.
Yeah, you should watch it. I'm trying to avoid this turning into us just shitting on Camila Cabello for the rest of the podcast,
which is that we are walking a fine line.
That's our top 5.
It's certainly is.
Well, I guess we can wrap it up now. Anyways, this has been another episode of Another Picture Show podcast. If you liked listening to us, you can listen to more episodes on YouTube or Spotify or Google Podcasts or wherever you get podcasts. And we'd love to hear your feedback if you have it. So follow us on Instagram and send us some DMs.
Love you.
Love you, Madalyne.
Love you, Olivia.
Bye.
Bye.